Hey, what's going on everyone? Shinmoke here. Today I'm just going to take a quick look at Charybdis, however you pronounce her name, Chernobyl, whatever it is. I'm going to be taking a quick look at her. Sorry I couldn't do this in PTS again, but yeah, was away from home. Literally couldn't get the, get the game, basically. Get the PTS going. So, anyways, let's just jump into Charybdis. She is a hunter in SMITE, obviously. So let's just start with her passive. Her attack speed increases as her tide increases. This is basically ripped straight from Poseidon, no offense. There's a couple things ripped straight from other characters, but we'll get there when we get there. So successful basic attack hits increase her tide, and she deals less damage with item effect procs, like an Odysseus bow or something like that. Oh, I should have kept it in my build. Oops. I didn't want to do Odysseus bow because I felt like it'd be really annoying having Odysseus bow going all the time. But so yeah, basically her attack speed increases as she gets more tide. So she basically has like sort of like a built-in stim, sort of like a Cupid, but of course this one builds up as you hit more and more auto attacks. And then of course the damage item reductions by 35%. Well, that's higher than I thought. And then basic attacks, your basic attacks also get stronger as you have more and more tide. So yeah, that's Charybdis passive. It actually builds quite slowly. Let me see if I could just. Yeah, I use more if I do that. So okay, it's about half. You'll see the tide does not actually increase with the amount of damage you deal, but by the amount of auto attacks you use. So that's where her hit chain comes into play. So she has two normal auto. Oh, whoops. She has two normal autos, and then the third one is a sort of like a spray down attack where each one does a third of your basic attack damage, but will of course build the tide meter the same amount as a normal auto attack. So that's how you build your tide up. Essentially, that's the way they decided to make her tide build up. So it seems like on the third hit, it either crits or it doesn't crit. They don't have. Oh, they do have individual crit chance. You just saw there. Okay. All right. Cool. So that's her passive in a nutshell. The tide, just like Poseidon, increases her her ability damage and gives them, I think, gives them additional effects, but not anything too sweeping or anything. Not really anything you have to worry too much about. Just always be trying to keep your tide up, essentially. That's all there really is to it. So actually for her one, we can walk on over here. I'll explain as we go. So she activates the maw, and then her auto attacks get a little bit wider and pass through minions. Like that. That's cool. Just like a rama one, essentially, except you know, just a base mana cost, and she could spray and pray as long as she wants. Doesn't have a limited amount of arrows, or I guess knives in this case. I don't know what she throws, but anyways, when you hit a wall or a god with these auto attacks, look at that, it splinters outwards or to the wall, so you can see it there. Pretty cool, right? Cool little effect. Of course, this is going to stack great with Odysseus bow, as long as that's in the meta. I know Odysseus bow has reduced damage with this character, but that I don't think that really matters at all, because, I mean, doing the splinter damage with an Odysseus bow, kind of crazy. So now moving on to an ability I teased you with earlier, her 2. I almost said her number 2. That's not right. But it's a slow wind up little. It says capsize. Why? It's like a little tidal wave, essentially. So it starts small, like this. But then we can let it grow a little bit more, and this will use more tide. So it gets pretty big, and then pop. Does more damage, and this also will do a pretty big slow. The amount of slow, of course, depending on how long you let it, what's it called? The amount of slow, depending on how much tide you have, and the protection reduction, which is actually pretty massive, a 40% protection reduction on max tide. So if Charybdis catches you, you're probably dead if you can't peel her off of you, because she's going to use wait around the corner with this ability and just kind of asanate you, essentially. It does have, all of her abilities actually do have quite a large mana cost, and her mana pool is pretty normal. So I'm thinking, of course, her damage numbers right now, new character, her damage numbers right now are pretty crazy. So we might see a nerf in that, and she might fall out of favor with if the bow build continues. And then once trans becomes good, I think she'll actually make a resurgence. That's my little theory, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So her 2's a great little ability. It doesn't actually have that much range, so that's something you have to look out for. You don't want to just sit in people's faces like, don't hit me, I'm just charging this up, don't mind me. And she doesn't actually have a gap closer. The closest thing she has to a gap closer is her 3, which let's get into now. Let me build up some tide. Okay, so if you just press this ability once, she becomes the Maw, gets a little bit of movement speed, and does the damage over time in that little pool she creates. And additionally, in that state, it actually doesn't cost any tide to use that. But what does cost tide is when she uses it, and then you reactivate the ability by pressing it again. You deal more damage and then a knock up at the end, but costs a pretty decent amount of tide. I actually didn't notice that at first. So if you're trying to get away, yeah, well, I don't really see too many situations where you won't want to activate it again. If you're ever using this, it's to get in on people or get away from people, and either way, you want the extra damage, move speed, and the knock up at the end. So I don't really see a point in not activating the ability. Maybe they just nix that first part of it, or just leave the first part of it for if you don't have enough tide to use that. But I mean, I guess they want to give you options with managing your tide meter. As I said, reactivating the 3 does take a lot of tide. It just it seems a little unnecessary, to me at least. So yeah, once again, deal more damage and then boop. Nice. And this is another reason I think Transmeta would be really good for her, just because her damage scaling is really decent. But yeah, let's hop into her ultimate, which is definitely not taking from another character. So she becomes the Maw, becomes CC immune, and gets movement speed, and it actually has 2 different damage phases. So let's get into this here. Just auto her a couple times, and then oh. Alright, not messing around this time. I'm just gonna kill her. So a long wind-up time, I think longer than Scylla's. And then of course it resets on the death if it kills somebody, and then as you saw, it will stun some people if it doesn't outright kill them. It also has charging damage. Let me see if I can see that. As I just proved, I can't hit moving targets, so let's just do it on this guy. Get that charging damage. So yeah, and it does a little pushback as well. I don't really think you can combo it. Hold on. Alright, let's try and push him into the wall. Ah, it does. Okay. So you could push him into walls and stuff, and then hit the big portion of it. So this, if you hit the whole thing, it's a lot of damage. That's 700. That's 880 damage plus. Yeah, I think that's 120 or 140% scaling just on the bite damage. So again, Transmeta, I think she's going to be amazing, even out because they're probably going to nerf her because her damage is really good. But yeah, once Transmeta comes, ooh, that's going to hurt. And of course, Dominance got buffed this patch too, and I think once Trans comes back around, we're going to see Dominance come in, and this character is going to be even crazier. But yeah, let me just give my quick thoughts on Charybdis, or however you pronounce it. Definitely a hyper carry's hyper carry. Definitely very glass cannon-y. Doesn't really have many good ways out, but if she catches you one-on-one and she has beads to beads your peel or whatever, she's probably gonna kill you. Of course, her damage numbers are a little high, and the clear is really good with the spike shot, and you can't really walk up to her because of the whirlpool slow. So it's nice self peel, and the 3 is definitely decent self peel as well. I do feel like before I get into what I think of the balancing of the character, I'm not a fan of how she has Ram's 1, Poseidon's passive, and then Scylla's ult. I'm okay with Scylla's ult because they're sort of sibling characters in that way, sibling characters both in mythology and in SMITE, so that's fine. But really, taking Ram's 1, taking Poseidon's passive, and really not changing too much about it, not the biggest fan of that personally. But as goes for balancing of the character, I like more. It's almost stressful to play them, right? But characters like Oleron and stuff like that, where they're super hyper carries with limited self peel, but they can still self peel for themselves a little bit, and then just whack you in the face with 1,000,000 damage. I like characters like that, but I do think there's going to be this stigma around the character where people. After some of her damage maybe gets changed around a bit, people are going to be like, oh, this character's so bad. But it's actually just more of a chess match of trying to live and still get your damage out, essentially. Because I don't really think her peel's that great. Of course, like Scylla, you can just run away with the ult, right? That's fine. And then, of course, it has a stun on it as well, so if they're chasing you, get away. Then you just hit him for 900 damage. Wow, that did more than I thought it would. But, yeah. I think she'll be really good on release, which is now, obviously. Sorry again about no PTS. But yeah, I think she'll be good on release. Get her damage moved around a little bit, and people are going to think she's going to suck. And then when Transmeta comes around, people are like, oh, she wasn't terrible. And then that'll be Charybdis in a nutshell. If I mispronounce it again, sorry. But I think that's it for my thoughts on Charybdis and a little bit of an overview. Oh yeah, I didn't even go over combos. Huh. What would be good combos? I don't know. I guess just walk up to people like that, cancel, and then just, you know, do that. Yeah, there was another thing I wasn't really liking when I was testing. Like, it doesn't really feel like there's any combos. You just kind of auto people. Like, at least Oleron has a few combos. But yeah, this one doesn't really have really good agency. The two doesn't feel like it is very. Can you just hold this? Okay, I think that actually makes the ability a little better. Yeah, okay, that's not too bad. It takes so much tide though. Yeah, I mean overall cool character. Don't love how some stuff got just ripped from other characters essentially, but overall I think she's cool, and I think she'll be a little unbalanced, and we'll just kind of run through people, especially with some of the supports right now. The supports and junglers right now, it's gonna be not fun to play against her at release. But we'll see what they do with the character. Hopefully they bounce it out a little bit more, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, what do you think of Charybdis? Broken? Not broken? And what do you think about my little trans theory? Do you think trans will be insane on her when that becomes meta again? Because inevitably it always does. It always becomes meta at some point. Do you agree with me that she'll be making a resurgence after a few nerfs once trans comes back? And yeah, let me know. Thanks for watching.